Mission Christian Radio presents The Seventh Son, the story of King David of Israel, written for radio in 13 episodes by Colm, Flanagan. Episode 8 is entitled The Beautiful Wife, Part 1.
The death of Saul and Jonathan hadn't made David king of all Israel. His own people, the tribe of Judah, acclaimed him king, but the other tribes did not. Instead, they made Ishbosheth, son of Saul, their king. Ishbosheth had survived the disaster on Mount Gilboa. Soon, a civil war broke out. Joab, David's chief general, hated Abner, who commanded Ishbosheth's forces. Abner had killed Joab's brother. Killing and counter-killing went on for 7 long years, but finally David was accepted by all the people as their king. He made his capital in a captured fortress on Mount Zion, which he renamed David's City, Jerusalem, as it is known today. And just when it looked as though his reign would now fulfill the hopes of all of us through the years, the Ammonites attacked us once more. They'd always had a greedy eye for the land of Israel and presumably thought that the new king might be weakened by the infighting. They were mistaken. Joab, David's general, took the field against them in a long, drawn-out and bloody war. One spring, David decided not to travel with his army and remained in Jerusalem. It was here that a series of events took place which shook him and those around him to the core. At the centre was a beautiful woman. And so, David, Joab concludes that the army is ready and he is confident of bringing our men to a victory. David, are you listening?
Sorry, yes, brother. Yeah, of course I am. Please, go on.
You seem a bit distracted. Are you feeling unwell?
Well, no, I'm just tired, that's all. I know I can trust Joab. Now, what exactly were you saying?
Now, this was very unlike David. There was something else going on, but I couldn't put my finger on what it was. But a few days later...
Don't you sometimes wish that we could end all this fighting and just enjoy a quiet, happy family life, brother?
Oh, yes, I do. Don't we all? But it isn't necessarily given to all of us.
And yet our paths have been through fire and blood for years. I feel I need a special person to really confide in, to be close with. You know what I mean?
You mean a woman? But you've had plenty of experience there, surely.
Well, in one way. But none of them have ever been as close to me in the way that I'd want. Not even Michal.
I said nothing. I was convinced David still missed Michal. But after he'd left her, she'd been remarried by her father to a man named Polti, who by all accounts loved her devotedly. David had brought her back to Jerusalem, but he'd been unable to regain her love. Perhaps not surprisingly.
I think I may have seen the person I'm looking for, brother.
So that was it.
Come with me. It's just about time.
Time? What time?
You'll see. Come on.
I followed David as he led the way up to the roof balcony of the palace. This overlooked the buildings in the immediate area. We could see into the inner courtyards of the house. David pointed.
Look, there.
A young woman came out of a house. Her slender body moved gracefully as she moved into the courtyard where a bath had been set up. As we watched, she took off her clothes and began to bathe herself. She had no idea she was being watched.
David, this isn't right. She's entitled to privacy. Come away.
No. Isn't she beautiful? Look how her dark hair shimmers in the sunlight, and her skin, it's like pure ivory. She is absolutely lovely. Did you ever see anyone like that?
Yes, but David...
I must find a way to have her for myself, brother. I've been here watching her for a few days now. Find out about her for me, please.
No, David, this is wrong.
Wrong? How can it be wrong? Am I to be denied happiness? Just find out who she is. I know she is destined for me.
David was besotted. That much was clear. Anyway, I made some inquiries, and my hopes rose as I reported back to him. Her name is Bathsheba, David. She's the daughter of Eliam.
Eliam. Yes, one of my 30 warriors. Oh, that's good news. She comes from a good family.
Yes, but I have some bad news for you, David. She's married.
Married?
Yes.
Who to?
Does it matter?
Of course. I want to know.
But David, if she's already married, you just can't.
Can't. I'm king, aren't I?
Of course, but it's wrong.
Then don't presume to tell me I'm wrong. I get enough of that from Nathan and Gad. Well?
There was nothing for it but to tell him. He'd find out anyway if I didn't. She is married to Uriah, the Hittite. He's a commander of your troops. He's fighting for you.
I know.
At this point, I made a suggestion, in the hope of maybe deflecting my brother's unhealthy interest in this beautiful young woman who was somebody else's wife. I was wondering, perhaps there's a way you could see Bathsheba and still not arouse any suspicion. Why not hold a banquet for all the wives whose men are at war, including Bathsheba, of course? That would be a good occasion, and it would reassure them all that you care about them and their men. And you could arrange for Michal and others to be there as well, if you wanted. David jumped at the chance. I hoped that perhaps when he saw Bathsheba among the other women, he'd realise that there were others who were every bit as beautiful and poised, and maybe even more so. But it didn't work out that way. I watched David during the banquet. He was at his most charming with everyone, but every now and then I noticed his eyes kept going back to the dark-haired woman we'd seen in the courtyard. I couldn't decide whether she'd noticed this or not. Later that night, I was just about to go to bed when... Who is it?
Open up, brother. It's just me.
Oh, come in. David came in and sat on my bed. Well?
It didn't work, brother.
What didn't work?
Your cunning plan. You hoped that when I saw Bathsheba in the company of lots of other women that I'd begin to compare her with others and come to the conclusion that she's not so very special. Yes?
Well, I suppose I did, sir.
I thought so. Look, this isn't just some passing notion I've taken. I can't stop thinking about her. I sit on the balcony just hoping she'll come out. What am I to do? Everywhere I go, I find myself thinking about her.
You know what you must do. You must forget about her, David. She's someone else's wife, and there's no getting away from that.
No, that's true. But there's no getting away from the way I feel either.
He sat for a while and then went out. I lay back and then eventually went to sleep. If I had known what was happening that night, I mightn't have slept so soundly. A hooded figure knocked at the door of a house near the palace.
Who's there? What do you want?
Is this the house of Bathsheba, wife to Uriah the Hittite of the king's army?
Yes.
Open the door in the king's name. I have urgent news for you.
Come in. What is it? Who are you? You're the king.
Yes, I am. I'm sorry if I startled you.
Your Majesty, have you news for me about my husband?
No, I haven't, but I've something else to tell you, Bathsheba, and it can't wait any longer. Let's go somewhere where we can talk.
The talking inevitably turned to loving later on, and shortly after that, Bathsheba came to the palace. David was besotted with her and wanted everyone else to love her as much as he did. I suppose the girl had little option. After all, if the most powerful man in the land wants you, then it's hard to refuse, even if you wanted to. Then, after just a few weeks, Bathsheba sent David a message, which sent him rushing to my room again.
And she says she's pregnant, brother.
So, what are you going to do?
It's difficult.
Well,
I know you're going to say it's my own fault, but I have to find some way of dealing with this situation. I still love her, more than ever.
But what happens if Uriah finds out?
He mustn't find out.
But David, you can hide the fact that Bathsheba's carrying a baby for a while, but everyone is going to know what's been happening in a few months. You can't have the people knowing that their king doesn't take marriage seriously, that he's had an affair with the young wife of a senior army commander who's away fighting on his behalf. That would cause untold damage to the country. Our whole world is based on the family.
Yes, all right. I don't need another lecture on morality. I had to be true to my feelings.
I didn't reply to this piece of self-justification. It would only make David more annoyed if I were to point out that he hadn't really tried very hard to put the feelings he had for Bathsheba to one side. He went into this without thought of the consequences, both for him and her.
I must do something.
I didn't respond to this either, and I wasn't about to try and think of some other cunning plan. My last one hadn't helped at all.
I've had an idea. I think it's a good one too. What if Uriah thinks that this child is actually his?
And how's he going to do that? He's been away for some months with the army. He can count the weeks on the calendar just as well as you can. This child couldn't be his.
But what if he was here?
Well, I suppose. But how are you going to get him here? We are at war.
I'll write to Joab and have Uriah sent back here. I'll say I want a full report on how the war is progressing, and I want Uriah, as a commander, to provide me with the information personally.
So that's what David did. And a few days later, Uriah arrived from the front with dispatches from Joab.
Uriah, I need a full report as to how things are progressing. Is the war going well? And what of Joab? Tell me.
Your Majesty, here is my report. Your army commander Joab reports that the Ammonite troops, though well trained and provisioned, do not equal the capabilities of our best troops, and so we have devised a strategy which will force them to retreat across the ford.
David kept Uriah there for some hours until finally he deemed that this had gone on long enough, and he could now get to the real agenda for the meeting.
And so in this final skirmish we only lost a small number of troops, whereas our enemies had taken much heavier losses. At this point, they retreated...
Good. Thank you very much. I get the picture. This is all most satisfactory, Uriah. I will see that Job is fully aware of your role in all of this. Now, it's getting late. You must be tired.
I am at your Majesty's service if you wish me to continue.
No, thank you. Plenty of time for that tomorrow before you return to duty. Now, I understand that you married quite recently to Bathsheba, isn't that her name? She's the daughter of one of my other great warriors.
Yes, your Majesty. I had a message from her recently telling me of your Majesty's great kindness.
What sort of message?
Why, of your Majesty's provision of the banquet to which my wife came. She said she had a wonderful time, and that your Majesty was most gracious to her, even though she knows she's not used to court procedures.
Yes, the banquet. Yes, indeed, it was my pleasure. I think it's very important to ensure that fighting men like yourself know that those at home are behind them and supporting their loved ones. Anyway, Uriah, I think you deserve some true rest and relaxation. Therefore, I'm releasing you from your duty for tonight. Go home. Spend the night with Bathsheba. I'm sure she's lonely since you've been away so long.
Oh, your Majesty, you're too kind.
Oh, not at all. I'll be off with you. I'll see you in the morning. My warmest greetings to your wife.
So Uriah left David. David was now convinced he'd solved his problem. Bathsheba could persuade Uriah that the child was his, conceived on this night, and all would be well. But this was not to be the way events would really turn out.
In episode 8 of The Seventh Son, the narrator and seventh son was played by John Lander and Bathsheba by Kerry Gregg. Other parts were played by members of the Commission radio drama team. The play was produced in Belfast at Commission Studios by Colm Flanagan. Episode 9 is entitled The Beautiful Wife, Part 2.